Hey, I'm Gary. Welcome to another segment of Interviews with Experts. Today I'm sitting with Dr. Stephen DeWitt, Toronto sexologist. What I want to ask you today, Stephen, is I think a really important thing. It kind of is the starting point for a better healthy sexual life with your partner. And that is communication. And we've talked about it before, but darn, sexual communication is difficult. Even for some of the best of us who know how to communicate. And I think a lot of it has to do with vulnerability, and you put yourself out there and can feel exposed. Talk to me about sexual communication some more and how we can improve upon that.
Absolutely, and that's a big thing, right? The fear of judgment and being made wrong, right, is a big thing that we carry on in all our lives, including sexually and communicating around there. We do talk about sex, but it's in very unique situations, right? So a bunch of guys at the bar or at the gym, or a bunch of girlfriends get together, and it's talked in a way that, as I see it, doesn't really engender a deeper understanding and connection with your partner, right? So one of the things that I always encourage people to do is to have that communication, right? Which sounds really easy, but sometimes it's challenging, right? So we've grown up where, again, sex is okay in a particular way in how we express that. And if there's any deviation or change from that, that can be challenging to communicate. So within most relationships, there's a set pattern that we go through. And then we become sexual together. And we develop a sexual habit or way of relating to each other. And that works, and it's great, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But then when things start to change, and we all evolve sexually, and I don't think that's something that we fully wrap our heads around, and it's taken me a long time to do that. But sexually relating to someone, we all evolve in our lives in many different areas, and we allow for that. In our careers, in our health and fitness, there's going to be changes. But sex has to be, this is okay, this is safe. And anything that's from that is going to mean something, right? So it means that maybe my partner doesn't love me, or maybe I'm not satisfying them, or all these other kind of things that go on in their head. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is create a space in their relationship to really be honest with each other about what's going on for them. And once you can do that and really share with your partner what's happening with you, it opens things up. And it's a place for no judgment, but just discussion of what's going on.
Okay, so no judgment. So is there a strategy where there are certain things we can talk about and under certain circumstances? Are there boundaries? How does that work? Is there any strategies in particular?
Great question. We're going to boundaries and safe words. So communication around sex in and of itself. And when we're talking about boundaries, would be specifically in a sexual interaction with a partner or partners, right? And there's two types of boundaries. There's what I like to call a soft boundary and what I like to call a hard boundary. So a soft boundary is something that is flexible. So depending on where you are at that particular time, right? So how aroused you are, what happened in your day, how you're feeling about yourself, what you have to do afterwards, those boundaries can flux and change. And again, there's communication around what that is in those boundaries. Then there's the hard boundary, right? So that's a hard stop. So that's something that isn't negotiable and isn't something that's flexible within the sexual context.
This is like a limit.
Exactly.
Your sexual limit. You're prepared to go this far, but the boundary's here.
Exactly. Right? And that's something within a sexual interaction is not something to be crossed. It can, I always encourage people to discuss that if that works for you later on in a non-sexual context. Within a sexual context, that's a hard stop, right? That's a limit. So, for example, it's, you and your partner, maybe spanking is a soft boundary, right? Where hair pulling is a hard boundary, right? And that's something that I always like to talk to people about, is those boundaries. And also, one of the things that I feel is really important within relationships that we often forget is consent is always something that can be given and taken away at any time.
Okay.
Regardless of what the relationship is, right? So there is, this kind of notion that, well, if I'm in a committed relationship with someone, if it's my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my wife, that there is some sort of entitlement or there's some sort of right to that person sexually, right? And that's something that I always like to open up is, you know, depending on what's going on for that person, that's not always there, right? And consent is something that can always be given and taken away within any relationship.
So depending on one's mood, it could be given and taken away.
Absolutely.
Where you're at in a relationship. Okay, so how do you know when it's acceptable and when it's not?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that where you talk about safe words, and that's something that came up for us, right? And a safe word is something that you would express vocally to your partner in a sexual situation that indicates something to them, right? So it could be stop, it could be slow down, right? So there's different words, and it's something that's not normally expressed within your sexual relationship, right? So if it's, oh no, stop, please don't, whatever, but that's something that you say to your partner to get it jazzed up, right? Obviously that's not your safe word, right? So different things that, like random things that normally wouldn't be expressed. So taxi, you know, is one of them. The other one that is quite common is red, which means stop, right? That's your safe word. That means it stops whatever's happening at that time. Orange or yellow means slow down or tread carefully, and green means go.
So couples are actively using these safe words to navigate the sexual experience.
Yeah, and I think it's a great thing to have in your sexual tool belt if you're, you know, looking at expanding your sexual repertoire or trying something new, right? Because you don't. Sometimes people will be in the situation, they're like, well, my partner's really enjoying it, but I'm not, and I don't know what to say, and I may, you know, hurt their feelings or whatever the situation is, right? And this is just a great way to be like, before it gets to that point, just to be like yellow or orange or something.
Okay.
Just to work things in that way.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting, and it's great advice too. Thanks, Stephen. Now, if any of our viewers would like to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. My website is drdewit.com. So it's DRDEWIT.com. And from there, there's email and Twitter and newsletters and any kind of questions, people can ask me that as well.
Excellent. Stephen, thanks for joining me again.
Pleasure.
Thank you to our viewers for watching another segment of Interviews with Experts, and we'll see you next time.